Get ready.
Okay, can I do it?
Looking for a reason, searching for a sign, reaching out with both hands. I gotta feel the kick inside. Oh, fire! Hey! Ain't nobody living in a perfect world. Everybody's out there crying to be heard. But I got a new fire burning my heart, lighting up the darkness and moving like a meteorite. Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire, fire, fire. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith. Now I believe. Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire! Oh, fire, fire, fire. Now I believe there comes a time when everything just falls in line. We live and learn from our mistakes. The deepest cuts are healed by faith.
We ready, Jim? Welcome to ReneMarie's Chocolate. I'm ReneMarie, and thank God we made it on. We had some technical difficulties. Judy's still having some technical difficulties from Long Island, but we can hear her, and she's listening to us through the phone. And Dr. Jim wasn't able to attend today. He had someone that really needed his help. And in life, we have to go where God leads us, and we need to be more present. So we will definitely have Dr. Jim on the show once again, but we're humbled and honored to have our friend Dr. Mike on the show. We're gonna talk about stem cells, because honestly, we always we hear of stem cells in the medical world, but I don't even know what a stem cell actually is. So we're going to start with what a stem cell actually is. And then Dr. Mike has some information about it. Judy has some information about it. And I want to thank Jim in Long Island for all the work he does. Thank you, Jim. I think we could see, let me see if we could see you. I hope we can. We'll see. So anyway, so before we begin our conversation and we let Judy, you can hear us. Nod if you can hear us. Okay. Yes. Perfect. So before we begin our conversation about stem cells, we really we need to address two topics that are streaming in the medical field, which touch on our world. First, we want to touch on Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis was diagnosed a while ago with aphasia, and I'm going to have Dr. Mike share a little bit of information because from the medical field, because I know nothing about medicines. But when he was diagnosed originally, there was no really cause for the aphasia. In my world, we suffer a stroke, and then some of us suffer from aphasia. But he was just diagnosed with aphasia, and we want to send our blessings and really humble, heartfelt, I don't want to say condolences because that's negative, I think, but just we want them to know that we're there and we support them, and we really feel for their struggles that they're going through. So he was just diagnosed with the cause of the aphasia being dementia. So I'm going to let Dr. Mike touch on that a little bit. We're talking in the green Zoom room about that a little bit. So Dr. Mike, touch on the aphasia and the dementia.
Okay, thanks, Renee, first of all, for having me on the show again. And it's a frontal temporal dementia. There are different types of dementia. The one that most people are familiar with is Alzheimer's disease, which is, very common as compared to frontal temporal dementia, which only about 1 out of every 750 people get in their lifetime. And there's no cure for it currently, and there's no real treatment for the cause, but they can deal with the symptoms. And the symptoms can, it's a rough disorder because you lose your social graces. You become rude, aggressive, lashing out at loved ones. And it basically changes the personality of a person significantly, which is a horrible thing because they become really a shadow of their former self. And
you, Dr. Mike, and I feel like we have to acknowledge that the person that's doing this doesn't realize they're doing it.
Right. It becomes, their new norm.
Yeah.
And, like there's an old joke about people that drink alcohol. They're happy drunks and they're nasty drunks. Mm. And, I'm sure it has a different effect on a lot of people. Probably some people, when they get it, it can manifest in quite a different manner. Right. But it affects the frontal lobe and the temporal lobes of the brain. So it affects speech, balance, coordination, a lot of cognitive functions. And the therapy that they have for it is basically like a speech therapy and different balance training. But the outlook is not good. The life expectancy after diagnosis is usually less than 10 years. Wow. After diagnosis. So it's not a
diagnosing dementia.
A diagnosis, the frontal temporal dementia.
Frontal temporal, and that's exactly what he has. Because I don't know how to say that terminology.
So with an O, temporal dementia. Okay, and it's like I said, it's not a very common because, like I said, only about 1 out of 750 people get it in their lifetime.
Wow.
And it can be diagnosed in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and with Alzheimer's is usually a little bit later on in life. Mm-hmm. And it's really a shame because what the family is doing is they want to get a lot of attention towards the disorder and try to get money for research for it. And even if it's not in time to help Bruce, it might be in time to help a lot of other people, just like what you're doing, trying to help people within your lifetime and in the future.
Yeah.
We try to set the seed for, stroke and aphasia, research and help for people that have it and to prevent it from occurring to begin with.
Yeah, that's almost like Luke Perry. When Luke Perry died of a stroke, I thought it was a moment in time that he would have, his legacy would have been his acting and his career, because it was a wonderful career, was a great guy, but he left the earth. And I think, in my opinion, and this isn't what everybody feels, but I think he shined a light on strokes can happen to any single person at any single time. And it really doesn't matter your age, your race, your religion.
Right.
It touches us all, and it could affect us in one split second. So I think that Bruce Willis, I see what you're saying, that the family is trying to make his help, to make this known.
Right. But, it's quite different, though, because this is not a type of thing that happens overnight. I mean, not overnight. Stroke happens at a moment's notice. Right. Whereas with this, it's a slow process. And like we were saying before, just like if you have a fever, there are many causes of a fever. Right. When you have aphasia, there's many causes of aphasia. It's not just a diagnosis of aphasia. It was really the beginning of his dementia, but it was manifesting when the first symptoms was aphasia.
Wow.
So whenever something happens, and I say this all the time, that nothing in the human body happens by accident. Everything has a reason. And sometimes people say, I've heard this, and it makes me just shake my head. People say, oh, it's bad luck they got cancer.
Yeah.
There's nothing about cancer and bad luck that are synonymous. Okay. There's a reason why cancer occurs. It doesn't just happen arbitrarily. Just like there's a reason why stroke occurs. There's always a reason for everything. And God made the human body to be healthy.
Right.
And you've heard me say this before, the only reason we're not as healthy as we should be is a combination of excesses and deficiencies.
Right.
The job of the physician and the patient and the patient's family and their advocates, because a lot of times people learn about things and study things and learn more than their doctors do about a specific topic, because the doctor has to know about everything, where if you concentrate and study just about one thing, you can learn a lot about that one thing. And, what you want to do is identify the excesses and reduce them, identify the deficiencies and increase them, allow the body to have a balance, which God designed us to be as healthy.
Wow. And that's what when I look at you, I look at someone that's very educated, keeps getting educated, keeps reading, and really has an alternative option for every single thing that happens in life. Like you just don't go down the main path. You try to look at everything that occurs, and there's other options. And honestly, sometimes it's with the doctors, sometimes it's a chiropractor like yourself, sometimes it's an acupuncture, but there are other options for us to reach. And sometimes you need all of them working together to make it work for you, for your healthy balance, right?
Well, you have to know about a lot of things when you're a doctor, okay? Yes. You have to and keep on learning. But unfortunately, there's some doctors that, like Dr. Ted Coram, when he told me, and I think I mentioned this a while ago, he was talking about a PhD from Harvard, and he said that they know so much about so little, they know absolutely nothing about everything else. There's a quote from Dr. Ted. Example, I was speaking to a surgeon a few months ago about vitamin D and how vitamin D impacts about 1/3 of the human genetic makeup. It turns on good genes and turns off bad genes. And vitamin D is actually classified as a hormone, not a vitamin. And it's so important. And also for stroke and stroke recovery and stroke prevention. But I mentioned to him the study that was done at the NFL Combine, where they have all the college athletes go try out for the NFL, and they tested their vitamin D, and they found the ones with the highest levels of vitamin D were out the least injured in college, and the lowest vitamin D were out the most injured in college. And they call that the injured list now, and rightfully so, not the disabled list, because they're injured, they're not disabled. They have a disability. That was a misnomer that has never occurred. And he knew absolutely nothing about it. And he confessed to me, he says, all I know about is surgery. I know how to do surgery. But I said, yeah, but when your surgical patients have a high level of vitamin D, they're going to recover from the surgery much more quickly.
Right.
And that was the first he ever heard of it.
Wow. Wow.
So,
well, like I said, this is a whole topic of conversation, Dr. Mike, and we're definitely going to have you back on when we do our 2 shows. I was going to have Judy read, but while Judy is away from the desk a little bit, I do. So thank you so much, first of all, for your wonderful information. We're blessed to have you today, because it really is important for us to have professional medical input into our conversations, because we just know the side about how it feels and what we need for us to recover. Judy, can you do me a favor? I didn't really know we were going to take the topic about Bruce Willis a little bit deeper than I thought, but with Dr. Mike, it's always informative. So do me a favor, read the intro, and we can definitely hear you. You need to get your computer off of mute. And then before we begin the stem cell, and we do have a little extra time today because Dr. Jim wasn't able to join us, I do want to talk on John Fetterman and depression. And she took herself off on depression. So let's focus on depression and strokes. And there she is. And we're gonna have 2 shows. So Judy, just remember, and I'll remind you, of course, I want to continue the conversation about aphasia, and I do want to continue the conversation about depression after strokes, because when people bring it in the forefront of the news, we need to grab that moment, because we've been talking about it for 8 years that we've been doing this show. 9. Judy, could you unmute you're muted on, that's okay, you're muted on the Zoom. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, Judy, go for it.
Okay. Welcome, Dr. Mike. Dr. Mike Evangel is a licensed chiropractic physician and clinical nutrition practitioner in Ramsey, New Jersey.
Paramus.
He graduated from Montclair.
Judy, hold on 1 second. That was my fault. He's now in Paramus, New Jersey. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. Good morning and welcome, Dr. Mike Evangel. He's a licensed chiropractic. Why am I hearing an echo?
Because the phone is on.
So what would you?
Shut it off and call me back.
Okay.
Like I said, everyone, we were having technical difficulties, so bear with us. We want to make sure Judy has the opportunity to be on the show. So Judy, go for it. Go for it, Judy. Okay.
Dr. Michael Evangel, welcome to our ReneMarie Stroke of Luck show. Dr. Michael is a licensed chiropractic physician and clinical nutrition practitioner in Ramsey, New Jersey. He graduated from Montclair State College with a BA in biology, teaching certification in sciences in 1975, and Montclair State College MA in environmental studies in 1980, and New York Chiropractic College Doctor of Chiropractic in 1985. Dr. Evangel will discuss the understanding of how diseases occur by watching stem cells mature in cells in bones, heart muscles, nerves, and other organs and tissue, and how researchers understand how many diseases and conditions occur. People who might benefit from stem cell therapy include those with spinal cord injuries, type 1 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease, strokes, burn cancer, and osteoporosis. And I will briefly discuss the promise of dental stem cells and how these valuable stem cells in a loved one's tooth can be collected and preserved.
Thank you, Judy. Cooking back up with Judy. So thank you so much. Thank you, Judy. Can you hear me? Hey,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted Judy to make sure. Judy, did you hear me, Judy?
Now I do, yes.
Okay, perfect. Now I'm just going to mute you so we don't have any echo. Okay, perfect. See, technology, you just have to be a little bit finesse. So, Dr. Mike, like I said, we're gonna really delve into the stem cell to discussion. But I really wanted to once again, just briefly, and we'll have you on the next show, is talk about John Fetterman and his diagnosis with depression after a stroke. To tell the truth, when after my stroke many years ago, I was depressed and I had no idea I was depressed. My sister actually saw me that I needed to go to counseling. And I actually see Light the Way counseling to this day. Every year I go for, recheck. And when I have something that I can't deal with in life, I always go back. And it's really wonderful to have that support especially with somebody that knows me inside and out and really could support me in the fashion that I need help in being successful. So can you give a little light on John Fetterman's diagnosis for depression, or his self-diagnosis? I don't even know. We don't know too much about it because it just happened a few days ago.
Right.
But we just wanted to bring it to light, and then of course we're going to continue the conversation on, on a whole show about depression. But give us a little bit of light. We're talking in the Zoom green room about it.
Sure. Well, first, when you have a stroke, okay, it's a sudden event, like we said before, and this whole situation that occurs with disease. There's some diseases that occur and they gradually come on slowly, and other ones that occur suddenly. When you have a sudden change in your body function, whether it's breaking a leg, whether it's having a heart attack, a stroke, whatever it is, when it's sudden and your life is turned upside down, it's normal to feel depressed because it's a huge, change in your life that is not for the positive. So to deal with it, of course, there's a lot of ways to do that through therapy, through nutrition and supplements, through drugs. There's a lot of different approaches to go into. But what I did mention before is that the United States and New Zealand are the only two countries in the world where you can directly advertise prescription drugs to the consumer. Only two non-third world countries. England, France, Germany, you cannot do this. That's one of the reasons why prescriptions are so expensive in the United States, because we have to pay for all the advertising. And we consume over 50% of the world's antidepressants with less than 5% of the world's population. And if the cure was definitively in the pill, we'd have the least depressed nation in the world, but that's not the case. Mass shootings have been in the news a lot lately, and the increase in mass shootings is directly related to the amount of antidepressants people take, because right on the box, you have black box warnings. There's a black box on the literature, suicide and depression, two major side effects of antidepressants. Also,
Dr. Mike, let me ask you a question. So if it's given for depression, how come there's a box on it that says it called depression or suicide?
Because it causes suicide or homicide, which are things that depressed people do. So it's a type of thing that people really have to look at all the options available to them. Now, me as a holistic practitioner, I always say what you should do is you should go for the least amount of side effects to the most. In other words, do something holistically first, unless, of course, if somebody is so depressed, they're possibly going to do something that's going to harm themselves or somebody else, then immediate medical intervention with prescriptions might be the best course of action. But, then, of course, the last option is some type of surgery. Now, they don't do that much anymore, but they used to do, frontal lobotomies, if you remember that from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. And that used to be a big and a transcranial shock therapy. I mean, we look at these things as being barbaric now, but these were done in mainstream medicine, decades ago. Just like there are a lot of things that were done that are not done anymore. Wow. But just to talk about, what happens suddenly, it's not a gradual thing. All of a sudden, you have this injury to your body, a stroke, and your brain. And it causes you to have to immediately change to a different perspective. This is what I was, this is what I am now. And looking at that, it's not a happy proposition. So what we have to do is, first of all, don't talk about stroke victims, talk about stroke survivors. You have to talk about looking at things from a positive, always a positive, aspect. It's not that you're injured, you are alive.
Yes.
And when there's life, there's hope. And that's something that Dr. Jim Henry would talk about more, because that's more of his area of expertise in dealing with hospice patients. And by the way, Jimmy Carter just went into hospice.
Yes.
I saw that in the news.
Yeah.
Oldest living president. But, I think we probably want to get into really, just to mention holistically, 3 major things with depression: vitamin D, I mentioned before, making sure that's optimize your level of vitamin D, omega-3 fats, which 95% of the world is deficient in omega-3 fats, and also your gut microbiome, because the gut produces the serotonin, which is the feel-good hormone of the body, which is very much related to depression. So those 3 things. And I went to an event last week where I saw for the second time this psychiatrist from Englewood, New Jersey, and he's there learning how to deal a lot holistically with patients, because he knows the side effects of a lot of drugs, and he only uses drugs when absolutely necessary, which I applaud that, because too many times, even with general practitioners, they're so apt to just write out a prescription for an antidepressant at the drop of a hat.
We should invite him to the show when we do the show about depression.
I will. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Judy would love to welcome him.
I think you probably want to go into next what a stem cell is.
Yeah, that's what we're going to go into right now. But I do want to share some information. Like, having been in that place where you're depressed, but you don't know you're depressed. You don't share it with anybody, Dan. Oh, there were my earring. You don't share it with anybody. So it's the conversation I want to talk about on the show that we do about depression is it really is important for everybody to kind of know that people around you, if they see anything different about you, or if they're sensing any difference in how you're acting, they really should search for help. Like, ask some professional, how do I deal with this? What do I do? What are the signs I look for? Because what's the gentleman Twitch, that all of a sudden he committed suicide with nobody ever knowing. He kept it important for people around you to know. Not that, I mean, sometimes you don't know, but to be able to look for those signs and not attribute it to your stroke so much, or not attribute it to the cause of that maybe you're depressed. So that's really important, and that's the bridge that I always try to gap. Like, we know the facts here, and the person is here, but how do we get that stroke survivor to understand the help that they might need? So it's like I always call it like peeling an onion. You have to peel back. With me, I had to peel back the layers. People had to peel back the layers. So I think you wanted to say something, Dr. Mike?
Well, I was going to say that I was going to say something else before, but it pertains to what you just said, that, people, if somebody falls and sprains their ankle, they don't feel bad about going to the doctor. But a lot of times when people are depressed, they have an opinion that there's a stigma that's associated with some sort of, mental disability, mental illness, psychological problem, where they don't want to reach out because people are going to think that, there's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And people admit much more readily they have a physical ailment than an emotional or psychological condition. And that's something that, a problem is a problem and needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of, peer pressure, what's happened. And they're having a lot of, programs now in schools about not putting, some sort of stigma on, mental health.
Yeah.
And it's great that they're doing that, because, kids have to, be able to reach out for help, whatever's bothering them, and don't feel that they have to keep it to themselves.
I agree. And that's
as well as adults.
That's why it's so important just to keep the conversation alive. That's we're starting a newsletter. It's going to be released at our April event, which I'm going to talk about before we go, because this show was just so many topics we wanted to talk about. Jim has the flyer as well. We'll show it in a little bit. But we're starting a newsletter that's going to be premiered there. And that's the name of the newsletter, Keep the Conversation Alive. That was a show we did back. I think you were a part of it. So I think it's really important. So we'll continue the conversation about aphasia, of course, and depression that John Fetterman is feeling right now. And we want him to know we're there, we're here, we're if you want to reach out to us, just as support, just to let him know you're not by yourself. We're here. We want everybody to know we're here for those that need us. That's what life is about, I think, anyway. But let's talk about what the purpose of this show was. And it's actually for stem cells. Judy, did you want to read your information first? Hang on, we need to do two things. We need to hang up and then unmute yourself and then read. Hi, Judy. You can read.
Okay.
You can read. Yep.
Unlocking the promise of stem cells. Your family can benefit from the promise of stem cells. With today's children and young adults living longer lives into their 100th area, stem cells will play an important part in maintaining their health and expanding their health spans. As the body's natural repair and maintenance mechanism, stem cells are being used for limitless and life-saving potential and personalized treatments in a variety of chronic, autoimmune, and previously incurable diseases, such as diabetes, heart disease, leukemia, brain injuries, arthritis, sports injuries, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, cancer, autism, Alzheimer's, and organ replants. Valuable stem cells in a loved one's tooth can be collected and preserved. A powerful class of adult stem cells are located in teeth, such as baby teeth, wisdom teeth, and permanent teeth. These teeth, when extracted, are rich sources for stem cells. Introducing Stem Save, which is a collective effort between top stem cell researchers and the dental health community. Their mission is to provide families with a convenient and affordable opportunity to collect and preserve the valuable stem cells that are contained within a baby's tooth, wisdom teeth, and permanent teeth. It's safe and it's convenient. Stem Save works closely with dentists like yours to design a clinically sound, reliable, and safe process for the collection of these valuable stem cells during routine dental procedures. How does it work? Well, the tooth is collected by your dental professional and sealed in Stem Cells Patent Collective Kit. The kit is shipped to I'm doing this without my glasses. The kit is shipped to Stem Cells Lab for verification that the cells within the tooth are viable. Upon completion of the viability testing, the cells are cryopreserved until they are needed. How do you get started? Ask your dentist if your loved one is a candidate for Stem Save. Simply go online to www.stemsave.com or call 877-STEM-SAVE, 877-783-6728 in order to receive your Stem Save kit. And when the tooth is ready to come out, it is set up and an appointment will be made with your dentist, and he will begin the collection and preserve process. If when they remove the tooth, it is currently taking place. If you're having the tooth removed now, please call Stem Cell at that number I gave you and enroll. But it's a great idea. Should have read it with my glasses on.
That's okay. I'm calling Judy just to make sure.
Hello?
Hi, okay, so we're good. I'm gonna mute you. Okay, so Dr. Jim. Hi, Judy, we're on. You can listen. You can listen. So Dr. Mike, let's take a step back and share with us what a stem cell is. Because honestly, like I said initially, I hear about it, but I never really delve into what is, because we can't talk about a stem cell unless we know what it is. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. A stem cell is what's called an undifferentiated cell. We have cells that are in our body that do all kinds of different jobs. Like a stem cell can replace pretty much any of those cells and become any of those cells. It can become a heart cell, it can become a kidney cell, it can become a brain cell, a bone cell. And all of our cells have a very, very small amount of the DNA being used. All the other DNA is shut off, turned off. And what stem cells do is they can morph or change into any of those cells and repair any part of the body. That's why they're so valuable. That's the basic idea behind it.
Okay. Now go ahead.
When the first opportunity to harvest stem cells is not from the teeth, but when the baby is born, from the umbilical cord, from the placenta, can get stem cells. And that's what a lot of people do, is they harvest them and they freeze them and they put them in a cryogenic lab, and then it's perfect for that baby as they grow up because it's their exact DNA. because with stem cell injections, which get into a little while, and other stem cell procedures, if you use somebody else's stem cell, it's not nearly as good as using your own stem cell. And the next best step in between is using stem cells from another family member that's very close to your genetic makeup.
Wow.
So I actually was very early on the curve because I've been studying things, as you know, for decades. And both my children, my daughter's 23, and we had her stem cells harvested when she was born, and we have them frozen. She just had a birthday the other day, just paid the annual fee. It went up from $95 a year to $125 with my son to store his stem cells.
Wow.
But, you know, we have those banked, you know, God forbid they ever need them. Hopefully they never will. But,
Dr. Mike, can I ask you a question though?
Right.
So if you harvest their stem cells, are they preserved without any causes that may come up in the future, like diabetes or not you know, or cancer? Are they free of all that because they've been preserved at such a young age?
right. They basically, they're in good shape. They're and you know, the next best thing is like what Judy was talking about, harvesting the stem cells from teeth. But you know, you only have one opportunity to harvest stem cells when you're born, and you have many opportunities later on when teeth come out, whether they're, you know, the child's tooth, the tooth falls out, or later on in life having wisdom teeth extracted, something to that effect.
Very interesting.
Okay, so the next topic is, you know, you have your own stem cells, and what can they be used for? Well, I've been reading a book. I'm not through the whole book, actually. My original dentist, when I got out of chiropractic school, Dr. Brian Trava, he's an endodontist now. He got me this book. It arrived in the mail, and I didn't know where it came from. It was from Amazon. I was wondering where I got it from, but I'll just show you in a second here. It's Tony Robbins' book, Life Force. I've been reading this. As you can see, I'm about halfway through the book, but he talks a lot about stem cells in his book, in his clinics. And it's crazy that they're talking about the past. I mean, it's a fantastic book. I'm really enjoying it. Kind of reminds me of the TV show Cosmos, if anybody ever saw that TV show.
I saw it, but I never watched it.
Okay, what they talk about in it is they talk about history of, you know, science and medicine in Cosmos, and the people involved, their lives, you know, what their problems were, and, you know, what their successes were. Like Madame Curie, she died from, you know, radiation exposure, and that's what she was working on, and they didn't know back then. Just like the people who used to paint the dials that used to glow with, you know, radium, and the paint, they used to dip the, you know, brushes into their mouths. They didn't realize they're getting toxic exposure to radium. But anyway, in that book, talking about in the future, you could take stem cells, and this is going to be supposedly before the end of this decade, and make replacement organs with 3D printers. I mean,
say it again.
Make replacement organs for people with 3D printers from stem cells.
Wow, that's intense. That's like, okay, let's take a moment and digest that.
Right? It's crazy, the thought of it.
Well, I mean, you know, honestly, I mean, back many years ago, I mean, maybe 20, 25 years ago, my brother-in-law used to say to me, yeah, one day we're going to be able to just walk out of the store with all our groceries, and it's going to be calculated. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. But honestly, you could do that on the Easy Pass, right? You just zoom under and it calculates, and it charges you. So, and the fact that they just scan things through these, so like it's here. So as far-fetched as what you're saying to me, it's true. It's crazy.
I know. It is crazy. My grandfather was born in 1899, and on his 90th birthday, what I did is I rented a video camera from a friend of mine, and it was like one of those big NBC boxes and the video camera was actually attached to a cord that went to a unit that'd be plugged into the wall. It wasn't like a handheld, camcorder. And I told him, which is really true, I said during his lifetime, he saw more lifestyle changes than probably any generation ever did or ever will. The airplane, the car, the radio, the TV he saw. But our generation, we're going to see, major technological changes, probably many more than any generation ever will before or after. It's amazing what we've seen in our lifetime, like you were saying before about the calculation. But anyway, going back to Tony Robbins, he was talking about this one woman that she was like these life stories from Sirius Radio. She was basically started Sirius Radio, and her daughter had a life-threatening condition, and it ended up that she sold her, stock to hire doctors to do research to cure her daughter of this condition, which was no cure. And so they couldn't figure it out. This woman studied everything herself. She now has a PhD in medical ethics. She found the cure for her daughter's condition. Now her daughter's in her 30s and working with her at the company doing all this genetic research.
Wow.
I mean, stories like that are phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
Well, Jim, Dr. Mike, we know that it takes somebody that's delved into it to drive it, and and they're not, no is not in their vocabulary word. Like no is not on my vocabulary word. No is like, it doesn't make sense. Like there's no, what you're saying to me does not make sense. I'm going to go out and find it myself.
Oh, yeah. Failure is not an option.
Yeah. Yep.
That is the motto.
Yeah.
And you can never underestimate the power of a parent wanting to save their child.
Yep. I agree.
Or a loved one, a sibling, a parent, a spouse. You can't underestimate that. So anyway, the future of medicine is mind-boggling. And artificial intelligence, we've heard a lot in the news lately about artificial in Google and what's going on there. And it's crazy. And anybody that saw the movie Terminator, we have to be careful because we might be considered the virus. And we have to be very, very careful when it goes, down that rabbit hole, because it's just like with nuclear power, nuclear energy can be used for good and for bad.
Wow.
So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so what was the stem cell conversation? Because did you help Dr. Jim with his?
I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to say that the options people have now with stem cells, you probably heard in the news a lot about stem cell injections. A lot of places are advertising. And insurance isn't paying for it yet because they say it's experimental investigational. And insurance companies don't like to pay for things unless they have to.
Don't even get me into that conversation. Because you know that's a topic that it's like
that's
that
infuses
me and infuriates me.
Because they love to take your money, but they don't want to give it back.
Yeah.
And it's insane when you think of it. And I ran into that situation with my computerized adjusting where at the beginning when I started doing it, that they said, oh, it's experimental investigation. It said it's FDA cleared and it's patented. Okay, we'll pay for it then. Because if something is not patented and FDA cleared, they don't want to hear about it.
And the truth is that this is something I can 100% stand behind is if they decline something, just don't take it as a no. You need to defend yourself and stand up for yourself and do your research like you've done and give them the facts about why you should go in that direction. Dr. Mike, can I ask you a question? Can you hang around for a portion of the next show to continue this conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
go
ahead.
Look, because I deal with this consulting my patients all the time because I'm kind of like, attorney, even though not, although my daughter's in law school now. And I told her that she should get into a lot of these things. Just yesterday, I was telling her about this, about a lot of new frontiers in law that are, like, one of my patients is an advocate for kids with disabilities to make sure that they get their, the right treatments from the school systems.
Right.
But you have to look at the policy, look at the insurance policy, is what I tell my patients, and look at the verbiage of the policy and see exactly what it says. It's just like jujitsu. You have to use somebody's force against them. You have to look at them, and that is the contract you have with them. You have to see in the parameters of that contract where the area is where they're saying no, where they should be saying yes.
Yes.
Like
yes.
with smart meters, that's a whole other topic with the radiation from smart meters. And actually, one of my patients, I gave him a link that I wrote a couple of years ago, and he went on PSCNG, and they had a link on PSCNG's website about additional information about the pros and cons of smart meters. He said the first link that came up was my article that I wrote, which was funny. But that's a whole other problem because they give off, and 5G is a whole other topic about radiation. Because, what happens is that when we look at longevity, we have to look at all the things that we're exposed to that could be harming us. It's like, it's like warfare. There's chemicals in the environment, in the air, and the water, and the food. There's radiation we're exposed to. We look at all those things, like I said, the excesses and deficiencies, and try to optimize it. But so that's a whole other topic we could talk about sometime, about when you're denied, a medical claim, how to go about trying to get it approved.
It's on. Judy, write that down. Say it again, Jim. Say it again. Dr. Mike, say it again.
When you and actually, I should try to get this constitutional attorney on that I became friendly with, and there's a group that would meet every second Thursday in Oakland at the American Legion Hall, and it's called We the People, and it's for like medical autonomy and rights, and it's amazing. Kevin Barry, the guy's name is, he's a constitutional attorney. I talked about possibly get him as a guest on.
We gotta have him as a guest. We gotta just hold off there. We're gonna continue this conversation. Okay. Judy, what Dr. Mike was talking about is to have a show about when your insurance claim has been denied, to what to do about it. And Dr. Mike is gonna give us the name or contact that gentleman he's talking about from Oakland. And we're going to have him on the conversation as well. We need to stream out of this show, and because Tony Muggs is in the waiting room. Before we go, though, Jim, can you show the Tricky Tray flyer, please? Because I want to make sure that I am giving promos to Diane Browski, who is doing a phenomenal job on the Tricky Tray. And I really, hang on, I just want to bring up the flyer for myself. I really want to give my heartfelt gratitude to Diane and her team, who I cannot tell you the intense, dedicated work that they are doing. You could see the team on the website. It says Meet the Team. And also to TD Bank and Edward Jones, Jeff. He donated, they were major sponsors, and we also have, let me see, about 10 or 12 or 15 other sponsors, and you can go see the page. Jim, is it on the thing? It's so you could see them right there, all the sponsors, and we have about 150, you could take the photo down, Jim. We have about 150 others Tricky Tray gift sponsors. So it is incredible. Dr. Mike, I hope you'll join us, because it's on April 18th. There's going to be a whole network of people there. We have about almost 100 tickets sold already. Diane's goal, her vision is to get 250. We have another 60 or 70 tables, enough six or seven tables promised to be purchased already. So we're gearing towards that 200 mark for people to come. And the truth is, it's an incredible event for many reasons. But it's at the Cosmopolitan in Wayne. This is where 10 years ago I had the vision, and I did a fundraiser 10 years ago it was called the Grand Chalet then. And I'm gonna do a short presentation when dinner starts, so I don't bother. I don't stop the flow of the goodness and the happiness and the tricky tray. But I really think it's important for me to give thanks to everybody that worked on it, and to share the vision in a short brief of where we've come from and where we are and where we're going, because that is really important. And we're doing a newsletter as far as that, and we're going to do a newsletter quarterly after that. So we're starting some wonderful things for the future. So I can't wait for this event. It's going to be powerful, very powerful. And Judy's going to be a part of it, doing a video, just a short video, so that she could be a part of it, because she's out of Long Island, and Judy and Ginny as well. So we're gonna stream out, and then we'll come back in and start the conversation. The next show is Tony Muggs, who had a stroke, and he was in the music field, and an incredible story. So we always blow our kisses. On 3, we blow our kisses, and 1, 2, 3. We'll see you in a few. Dr. Mike will be back with us. We're going to continue the conversation.
Mi amor, yo no entiendo por qué tú más que nadie sabes qué pasó.
Can you do me a favor? I think Tony Muggs popped off. Can you guys remember? Give him a
Yo
call.
no sé qué tú piensas, yo no sé lo que haré, yo no sé lo que estoy perdiendo.